Cameron.
Here.
Keogh.
Here.
Mortimer.
Here.
Vic.
Here.
Nuxall.
Here.
Johnson. Bayer.
Here.
Thane.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Lacey.
Here.
Bell.
Here.
Bolt.
Here.
Estridge.
Present.
Thompson.
Here.
Gibbs. Stevenson.
Here.
Miller. Youngblood.
Present.
Ringo. King.
Here. Quorum is present, and we're ready for business. And Dr. Nellis, thank you so much for being with us today, and we're going to share the first hour with you, so the floor is yours.
Well, Madam Chair, thank you very much. Madam Chair, for the record, I'm Dwayne Nellis, President of the University of Idaho, and it's a pleasure to be with you this morning and to appear before the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee. Joining me today is the Provost and Executive Vice President Doug Baker, who's assisting me today, as well as our ASU President Hannah Davis. I don't know if she made it into the audience. Yes, there she is. As well as our student lobbyist Andrew Blake. In addition, we have our legislative liaison and my special assistant Joe Stegner here, as well as a number of other of my leadership team to be supportive of me and to respond to any questions you might have. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity and to congratulate all the new members for their recent election success, as well as committee appointments. I'd also like to thank Governor Otter for the budget emphases he's placed on key programs related to our mission. With so many new members on JFAC this year, I've tailored my comments to provide a brief overview picture of the University of Idaho, and then to look at our specific needs. But as with every presentation I give, I want to be clear that our most important work, past and future, lives in the outstanding education we provide to our state's young people as they pursue their future careers. The University of Idaho is a nationally recognized research institution committed to student success and academic excellence, and we deliver one of the best educational values in the Pacific Northwest. We are the state's first and leading higher education institution with a historical mandate to serve the entire state as one of only 72 national land-grant universities. Founded to ensure all citizens have access to a high-quality education, we excel at interdisciplinary research, service to businesses and communities, and in advancing diversity, citizenship, and outreach. Our numerous national rankings testify to the extraordinary quality of our people and programs, and most important, to the success of our students. These young people are the future of Idaho, and I know, based on my own interactions with them, that the future for this state through these students is very bright. Their success is our success as we prepare Idaho's next generation of business and public leaders. As an institution that predates statehood, we're part of the fabric of this great state and proud of our continued contributions to Idaho's history and success. We're defined and inspired by our work with public and private entities statewide that benefit our citizens and the state at large. Our work began with a significant moment in American history. 2012, this past year, marked the 150th anniversary of the Morrill Act, legislation, landmark legislation, that the National Archives recognized as one of the most important pieces of legislation in American history, supported public land sales in an effort to support higher education. Republican Senator Justin Morrill from Vermont sponsored this legislation, the Morrill Act, through Congress for Abraham Lincoln's signature in 1862, 1 year before Idaho became a territory. This act and the land grant system it created are the key reasons all Americans now have an opportunity to better themselves. It was a visionary turning point in our democracy. Higher education, once the domain of the elite, became available to all men and women. The University of Idaho's early courses, primarily in agriculture, mechanical arts, and home economics, demonstrated Idaho's commitment to the shared ideal of education for all. Even in our first graduating class of 4, big class of 4 in 1896, we had 2 men and 2 women in that class that graduated. And today our enrollment exceeds 13,000 students, and we continue to inspire that ideal of access. And what I'm particularly excited about is in the last several years, our freshman class, 1/3 of those, including the freshman class from this last fall, were first in their family to go to college. We're reaching new Idahoans across our state, and that's having a significant impact. The land-grant mission was designed specifically to educate future leaders, including preparing them for service in our armed forces. It was part of the original Morrill Act. Thus, it's not an accident that one of our alums, General James Amos of Wendell, Idaho, serves our nation as Commandant of the U.S. Marine Corps. He's one of the Joint Chiefs of Staff from Wendell, Idaho, went to the University of Idaho, went through our ROTC program, and is now Commandant of the U.S. Marine Corps. And recently, we were recognized nationally as one of the top veteran-friendly campuses. We have a long and distinguished history of educating national leaders in a wide range of fields, from distinguished government and civic leaders to leading engineers, scientists, and entrepreneurs. Like all land grants, our focus began in agriculture and engineering, and our heritage and strength in these areas continues to this day. Our scope has adapted to meet the challenges faced by the state we serve, and our colleges, and more than 70 statewide research and outreach centers meet the needs of this growing and dynamic state. Now, if some of you haven't been to Moscow, our Moscow campus, you may not be aware that the famous Olmsted brothers, nationally renowned landscape architects who also designed New York's Central Park and the Chicago waterfront and many other iconic places in our nation, also designed the University of Idaho campus. It's not surprising then that the beauty of our Moscow campus parallels that of many distinguished universities in the East, a comment we often receive from parents and students who visit our campus for the first time. Today, we become a national research university commensurate with that image. And like our national peers, our research extends far beyond our historic core. Our primary campus center, of course, is in Moscow, but we have campus centers in Coeur d'Alene, Boise, and Idaho Falls. There are also many research facilities around the state that we operate. And we have extension offices that don't just focus on agricultural extension, but they focus on things like community development and economic development. We have extension offices in 42 of 44 counties. Their diverse programs support, again, a broad range of programs that enrich our state. From the more than 36,000 students who participate in the University of Idaho 4-H program statewide, to the work we do with Idaho National Laboratory in defense and energy production. Our positive influence on the state's progress can be found most everywhere. All told, through extension and our programs, the University of Idaho serves directly more than 500,000 Idahoans each year while pumping nearly $1 billion per year into Idaho's economy. We're proud of this statewide mission, and I'm proud to share with you how we deliver that value to our state and our citizens every day. Much of our work begins around our 9 colleges, each with distinct strengths. We have 4 colleges at the University of Idaho that are distinct to the University of Idaho. No other university or college in the state has these colleges. Like the university, the College of Business and Economics has a rich history. Founded in 1925, it's produced state leaders, including some of you in this room. This college is one of 579 of more than 12,000 total business colleges. There are 579 that are accredited by the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business, and we're one of those. It's also one of only 170 worldwide to hold AACSB accreditation for accounting. Further, it's one of the few schools to be recognized with areas of excellence, including its integrated business curriculum. In fact, when they were reaccredited here a couple years ago, they not only reaccredited, but they received 4 areas of national recognition, and I'm very proud of that. Our integrated business curriculum, for example, uses case study approach where students solve real world problems and they work with corporations like Micron, Hewlett-Packard, and Schweitzer Engineering. The Barker Trading Room provides a live connection to financial markets where students engage in real world trading. They're using real money to trade, and it's a great learning experience for them. In our Vandal Innovative and Enterprise Works Review program, students put their business skills to the test by applying them to community outreach programs in an annual business plan competition. We have CEOs come in and judge that competition, and it's a great opportunity for these students. One of those teams actually placed 4th nationally at the Rice University national competition in entrepreneurship and business design, 4th out of 800 teams that submitted projects. Our College of Engineering faculty attracts millions of dollars to our state for research and provides exceptional career preparation in fields that range from microelectronics to transportation to robotics to computer security. The college's capstone design program was recently ranked among the 7 best capstone programs in the country by our National Academy of Engineering. Again, a significant distinction. Our faculty's work in computer security and advanced computer protocols helps keep our nation's and Idaho's critical information infrastructure secure and viable. Through the governor's iGEM initiative, which you supported this last year, we are able to extend that program in cybersecurity. And thank you for the support of that effort. Just as an example of one of our alums, Matt Braley, a 2005 alum, an electrical engineer, works with the Mars rover, and he actually designed the data collection system on the Mars rover Curiosity. Our College of Education has prepared state education leaders for generations. For example, both the Superintendent of the Year, Dr. Don Coberly from the Business School District, and Katie Pemberton, Idaho's Teacher of the Year for 2012 from Coeur d'Alene, are University of Idaho graduates. Our graduate programs in education received national recognition. In fact, just recently, U.S. News and World Report recognized our College of Education as one of the top 100 in the United States. And we recently, you probably read, established a Doceo Center in partnership with the Albertson Foundation to explore more effective ways for using technology in the K-12 system, preparing Idaho's next generation of teachers. The College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences was our first college, founded on the belief that the underpinnings of an excellent education rest upon a firm foundation in the arts and sciences. Our School of Journalism and Mass Media was recently recognized as one of the nation's top 50 journalism programs in the country. We received the National Medal of the Arts to the University of Idaho for our Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival here a few years ago. The college is also home to the James and Louise McClure Center for Public Policy Research. Our College of Science was established to grow our long-standing work in science education and research. Bioinformatics and evolutionary studies is one of the college's most prestigious programs. It's brought in over $13 million to the university and to the state of Idaho. This is part of a larger IBEST program that focuses on computational resources, genomics, and optical imaging. These programs have been very helpful to our state and our nation as far as advancing human health, animal health, food sciences, and agriculture. And we contribute over 50% of all the STEM degrees in the state of Idaho. Over 50% of those come from the University of Idaho. As I said earlier, 4 of our colleges offer programs that are unique to Idaho, and in some cases, even unique to the West. The College of Art and Architecture provides broad disciplinary training in art and design to shape visual and physical elements of the human environment. The college's Integrated Design Lab here in Boise, you may have seen it over on 6th Street, helps professionals hone their skills and has received national recognition for their work in the development of high-performance, sustainable buildings. In fact, over 80% of the sustainably designed buildings here in the Treasure Valley, the IDL provided assistance to them. Great link here to the Treasure Valley, and through that it's produced millions in cost savings as far as energy efficiency. Our nationally recognized College of Law is the only public law school in the state of Idaho. The college produces leaders in business, law, and public service. Its highly successful third-year program in Boise better prepares students according to their professional interest, and has been a significant link to businesses and government agencies that are here in the Treasure Valley. The National Jurist magazine recently recognized the College of Law as one of the nation's top 30 law schools for producing graduates entering public interest law. Our widely respected pro bono program has also received the highest level of ABA honors. Last year, the college also assumed responsibility for the state law library for the Idaho Supreme Court in the wake of recent budget reductions. And that synergy has worked extremely well and sets the stage for the state law library and the University of Idaho working through the Supreme Court to be part of the Idaho Law Learning Center in the old Ada County Courthouse. And we appreciate your continued support of resources to renovate the Ada County Courthouse. We're also planning to expand our training, specialized training here in Boise through the second-year law program. The College of Natural Resources combined two colleges. It was founded back in 1917. It combined here a number of years ago the College of Mines and Earth Resources and the College of Forestry, Wildlife, and Range Sciences. Today, it is the only College of Natural Resources in our state. It provides important forestry education and research to our forest products industry. The UI Rangeland Center is collaborative with the Natural Resources College and the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And as we know, that's very important in dealing with issues like sage grouse and other issues, wildfires across our state. And you're very aware, I'm sure, that over 50% of Idaho's total area is in range. And so it's very significant that we have a center that's kind of the research arm to support that. The University of Idaho McCall Outdoor Science School through the College of Natural Resources is a unique program and touches thousands of K-12 students that go through there each year. I was reflecting here recently on a story I heard about a month ago from a mother from the Boise area who sent her daughter to the McCall Outdoor Science School, a sixth grader. And when she arrived there, they asked each of the students to draw what they thought a scientist looked like. And they drew a picture of a male with a lab coat on. After that experience at McCall, they asked them to draw what they thought a scientist looked like again. And her daughter drew herself with a lab coat on. And just the impact of that as far as future generations of STEM, significant and important. The college also directs our Idaho's Forest Utilization Research Program, and again, that supports our forest production industry. Here's an example of some of the work they do in CNR. This is a piece of ponderosa pine that has been through a treatment of resin impregnation, actually been modified. It's very heavy now. It's like a hardwood now, and it's very resistant to disease, insects, and it can be used for things like flooring, like almost to replace hardwood flooring or decking or other types of opportunities. And I'll just pass this around if I don't lose my speaker cord. Our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences is another great Idaho asset. Its programs include agricultural sciences as well as human health, food production, and textiles. This college operates our Agricultural Research and Extension Service for the state of Idaho and our 4-H programs. It also educates future veterinarians through our cooperative Idaho-Washington Veterinary Medical Education Program. And you'll hear more about our College of Agriculture and Life Sciences and the tremendous role it plays from our interim Dean, John Foltz, later this morning. As I've just shown you, our colleges are unique and distinct, and I'm proud to say that our faculty are among the best in the nation. We have so many faculty that could be anywhere but love the quality of living here in Idaho. Each of the University of Idaho's 3 campus centers also draw upon the strengths of these 9 colleges. Our Boise Center here, and I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to visit the Water Center building as an example, provides professional fields like law, medicine, architecture, dietetics, engineering, and education to our state's largest population center. If you haven't been in that facility, I urge you to go see one of the world's largest eco-hydrologic flumes, which is housed in that building and does water-related research that contributes to our state's understanding of water resource issues. The answers to water resource issues, as we all know, are very complex at the intersection of law, science, economics, community dynamics, and engineering. Our Coeur d'Alene campus center, we offer 28 degree and certificate programs in Coeur d'Alene. We also collaborate very closely in Coeur d'Alene with North Idaho College, Lewis Clark State College, Boise State University, and Idaho State University to serve the citizens of that area. The University of Idaho's Research Park in Post Falls provides a perfect focus for the integration of business, research development, and education. And it's the home of a number of cooperative efforts, including our new Laboratory for Applied Sciences Research, or LASER. LASER provides a vehicle to more effectively mesh our university with our corporate partners, and we're very proud of a large number of corporate partners that we have. We're currently working with our first partner with LASER, Schweitzer Engineering, on an electrical power management research project. Our research programs in Idaho Falls capitalize on our co-location with Idaho National Lab. In addition to supporting INL's core nuclear energy mission, University of Idaho students and faculty do research through the Center for Advanced Energy Studies, which has been a great partnership, again, between INL, Boise State University, Idaho State University, and the University of Idaho. This state has made an investment in that through iGEM and through other appropriations, and the return on that investment is significant. Just this last year, another $9 million in competitive research was brought into the state because of CAES, now totaling $51 million since they opened in 2008. WWAMI is a visionary and cost-effective program that provides training for Idaho students seeking to become medical doctors. Together with the internationally ranked University of Washington School of Medicine, our faculty oversee medical education within the state of Idaho, and I'm very proud of that program. It also draws physicians to Idaho. And if you look at our statewide presence, nearly 400 doctors now serve in the communities seen on this map with at least one WWAMI-trained physician in each county in Idaho. Significant impact. One of them is on your JFAC committee, Senator Schmidt. Another unique program is the Idaho Geological Survey, which was originally formed as the Bureau of Mines and Geology in 1919 and assigned by law to the university as a public service and research agency that focuses on mapping programs that benefit industry, including our resurgent mining industry. So they work very closely with the mining industry. And in 2012, they released a new state geology map that aids in resource management and the development of our minerals and energy resources at a regional scale. The University of Idaho attracts nearly $100 million in competitive research funding. We're nearly in the highest ranking category of the Carnegie Foundation, which is a very high research category. We're a high research category. And again, the Carnegie Foundation is the national standard in the way universities are classified. In the last 4 fiscal years, we've applied for 81 patents to show you the level of discovery and the contributions we're making to the state's economy. We also executed 36 tech transfer agreements to turn ideas into practical products with economic benefits to our state. Increasingly, we take a hands-on approach to research with undergraduates. In fact, 70% of our undergraduates participate in research and creative activities while they're a student at the university. The IDEA Network of Biomedical and Research Excellence, or INBRE, is the largest biomedical research project in Idaho's history. We lead a network of 9 Idaho colleges and universities, plus the Boise VA Hospital, in biomedical research. From May of 2009 through 2012, Idaho Embry, through grants that they received, investment as part of their creation, took $5.8 million and used that, leveraged that through these 9 universities, including the University of Idaho, into $65.8 million in return, an 11-fold return in that investment. Our regional approaches to climate change project, funded through the National Institute for Food and Agriculture, will enhance the sustainability of wheat and barley in our great state, as well as throughout the Northwest. That's a $20 million grant. It's the largest in the university's history, and it's looking at, again, regional climate change and its impact on wheat and barley. And that's a partnership with Washington State University, Oregon State University, and the USDA Agricultural Research Service. But we're the lead institution on that. These efforts and many other research efforts demonstrate our success, but not all are easily shared. But I wanted to show you a couple of examples. One is it looks like a screw that's been coated with something. It's actually a nanospring technology coating on this screw. It was developed by a PhD student at the University of Idaho, Dr. Jamie Haas, who has a patent pending on this design. But what would this be used for? The failure rate for hip and knee replacement surgeries is 8 to 20%. 8 to 20%. Now, the reason for that primarily is issues related to bone bonding. Well, this nanospring coating on this screw actually acts almost like a Velcro with the bone bonding and increases by 500-fold the bone growth onto this screw and bone bonding by 500%. Now, what's also great about this, Doug, if you'd hand that over to Representative Ringo, these devices have gone from theory to reality. This new PhD, she started a company in Cataldo, Idaho, based in Cataldo. She can be anywhere, but Cataldo, Idaho, you all know Cataldo, right? Near Coeur d'Alene. It's called MJ3 Industries, and she's marketing this nationally. This small device was developed, in this little case here, developed by Professor David McElroy from our physics department. It also uses nanospring technology, and each of these cells, there's little tiny cells in there, each of them has a nanospring coating on them. And it's like your nose. Each cell has a different sensitivity to smell, and it can detect all sorts of things. It can be developed to detect all sorts of things. It analyzes chemical properties, and it's being designed to detect explosives. So David McElroy is actually working with our Department of Defense using this nanospring technology to detect explosives, and it could be revolutionary. And he's based at the University of Idaho. Many of our Idaho students choose the University of Idaho for their education primarily because of our reputation for student success, which is validated in our national rankings. Whether it's Forbes magazine, who recently saw us as among the top Best Buys as far as quality, 33rd in the nation as far as affordability, or Princeton Review that named us as among the top 15% of more than 4,000 colleges and universities, or Washington Monthly that ranked us as 65th in the nation as far as the quality of our university, ahead of every other university in the Pacific Northwest, with the exception of the University of Washington. It's no wonder that we attract top quality students from the state of Idaho, and that we have 67 National Merit Scholars, which ranks second only to the University of Washington in the Pacific Northwest. You know, National Merit Scholars are the top 1% of high school students in our nation. Through your investments, through all of your investments, the University of Idaho is providing vital innovation and will continue to provide vital innovation to our state's economy. You are our partner, and together we can continue to inspire our state to exciting futures. That leads me to our specific requests. First, funded salary increases, or also called change in employee compensation, are very important. They allow us to retain the best faculty and staff. And even in this difficult economy nationally, there are other universities that are constantly going after faculty like Professor David McElroy that I mentioned to you earlier. We lost our top wheat breeder 2 years ago to Oregon State. You just don't go out and hire a wheat breeder like that person and have them functional at the level they need to be in a short period of time. So it's very important that we continue to have change in employee compensation, or CEC. It's very competitive. You know, we look nationally at what's happening with football coach salaries at college level and professional level. It's unbelievable what's happening. But some of these faculty are very marketable with their expertise, and universities know about them and want to recruit them. So we need to do everything we can around that, and that's our #1 priority this year. Enrollment workload adjustment is also included in the university's funding request. These funds help cover the direct cost of educating additional students, and we have more students today than we've ever had at the University of Idaho. Occupancy costs, like the enrollment workload adjustment, occupancy costs are an important funding line that provide direct funding for operating expenses such as utilities and maintenance of our facilities. With the State Board of Education, we're requesting funding for 5 new WHAMI seats, and I know you'll be hearing from the WHAMI program later this morning. This would bring the total number of seats for WHAMI to 25. In 1973, when WHAMI was created, the state of Idaho funded 20 seats. And you know, we're almost double population-wise what we were in 1973. We need these seats. And this is part of the state board's overall plan to have 40 seats to serve our state. You know, states like Wyoming and Montana, which are much smaller than us in population, and Alaska, they all have 20 seats. But we need to move forward with our growth in our state. We're one of the lowest number, we have the lowest number of physicians per capita of any state in the nation. We're also requesting $400,000 to add a second-year curriculum to our already existing third-year, very successful third-year program for the College of Law here in Boise. And that directly links to businesses here in the Treasure Valley and government needs. The University is also requesting $196,000 to fund the new Rangeland Center established by the legislature this past year, again to address issues like sage grouse and wildland fires. We'll hear later about the separate Agricultural Research and Extension Service annual appropriation request when Dr. Foltz addresses you here later this morning. But we do appreciate the governor's commitment to restoring that lost funding for agricultural research and what it means to the state of Idaho. We have a historic infrastructure that we preserve and maintain on behalf of Idaho's people we have a historic infrastructure that we preserve and maintain on behalf of Idaho's people that sometimes is a challenge. The JFAC composition of last summer visited our campus and had the chance to see some of our deferred maintenance needs, which now are over $200 million and a real concern to us. So recent reductions in state resources has made this situation even more challenging. Safety and basic maintenance remain a priority for us. Of course, we need to look to the future too, and we're proposing funding in part from the Permanent Building Fund Advisory Council, and they've recommended approval of that, $2.5 million this year as seed money for our Integrated Research and Innovation Center in Moscow. And we're going to bond another $30 million and raise $15 million from private sources to put up this state-of-the-art research building, which we need. We haven't had a new academic building on our campus in over 10 years. In closing, I'd like to thank you for your service to this state and for your thoughtful consideration of our requests. At the University of Idaho, we take seriously our mission as the People's University, committed to student success, academic excellence, and statewide leadership. You are our most important partner, and I look forward to working with you as we meet the needs of our great state and to the people of this state. And with that, I'd be pleased to respond to any questions you have.
Thank you,
very
Dr.
much.
Nellis. Appreciate that presentation. Questions for President Nellis? There we go. Representative King.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And we can't let you go home without visiting with us about other things. Tell me about the law school here in Boise. How many kids how students do you have? And what do you anticipate the increase will be if you have a second year here?
President.
Madam Chair, Representative King, thank you for that question. The law school has been a great success here in Boise. We've had 2 classes that have gone through with 30 students in those classes. It's a satellite to our main core law school in Moscow. The focus here has been on business law, corporate law, intellectual property, but also links to government law. And again, the opportunity for externships, the opportunity for placements has been tremendous because of that. The second year program, we would like to, again, receive funding for that, would add 40 second year students here, and we'd actually increase the number of third year students to 40. We believe there's capacity right now at the Water Center to house those students, and it's a great synergy right next to where we have the law program here in Boise is the State Law Library, and so it's worked extremely well together. There's demand for those students here in the Treasure Valley. In fact, we have a shortage. You may not necessarily agree with this, but we actually import lawyers from other states because we don't have enough. We're not supplying enough for the state of Idaho, and they contribute significantly to our business success. So we'd like to have 40 second-year law students and 40 third-year law students through this program, and eventually have all 3 years here. The Supreme Court wants us to be a partner with them in the Integrated Law Learning Center that would be housed at the old Ada County Courthouse. And again, you've, through the legislature, been appropriating funding for the Law Learning Center, and it's almost nearing the amount of money needed to renovate that. The university, through our Dean of Law, Don Burnett, and I don't know if he's here today, yes he is, that we've raised private funding as well, over $1 million to support that effort. So there's a lot of interest here in the Treasure Valley in having a public law school that provides support to businesses in our state, something that financially is viable for students that may be place-bound here in the Treasure Valley, but also to attract students who would like to live in a metropolitan area like Boise.
Representative Ringo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Strangely, I also had a question about the law school dealing with something that I read recently, and I have a burning desire to ask it of Dean Burnett. Would you humor me on that matter?
Are you okay?
Sure.
We're all right. Just ask why we need the lawyers, and then we'll all know. I think inquiring minds are wanting to know that.
So, Madam Chair, and
he can take that standing mic. Richard will turn. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And Dean Burnett, strangely, we run into people that have a cynical attitude about lawyers, and it breaks my heart. I'm sure it messed yours as well. But the question I happened to see an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education recently that talked about enrollment in law schools going down, and some of the students actually being dissatisfied with the job opportunities after they complete law school. So in view of the fact that we do have this desire to expand here in Boise, I wondered if you could address some of those issues.
Dean.
Madam Chair, Representative Ringo, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to the President for yielding me a moment of time. It is true that applications to law schools are down this year, as they have been the last 2 years. It's partly because there is a disconnect between the debt level that students have coming out of private law schools, and more than about 2/3 of all law schools in the country are private law schools, and the job opportunities that they have at the entry level. Very difficult to go to a private school where the average indebtedness coming out of law school is now over $125,000. And that's in addition to undergraduate debt and in addition to any personal debt, and then take an Idaho entry-level job at that level. That's why public legal education continues to be very important. Our students come out with 5-figure debts, not 6-figure debts, and they can manage them and they can stay in Idaho and they can represent small businesses, people of ordinary means. They can they represent communities. They can be public defenders. They can be prosecutors. About a third of all law students go into something other than the practice of law, which is something the national media doesn't pay very much attention to. And these are not second-rate jobs. Frank Schrontz, a past CEO of Boeing, is one of our graduates. Dennis Johnson, the CEO of United Heritage, is one of our graduates. Matt Freeman, I just saw walking through the hallway here, fiscal officer for the state board, is one of our graduates. Bob Maynard, the chief investment officer of Percy, is a law graduate, not one of ours. And he told me that more than half of the people who are chief investment officers for major trusts and entities are probably JD holders. The JD offers a wide variety of opportunities, much more so than any other degree. I think that offering the second-year curriculum here, with its focus on economic development and its focus on business law. We have, by the way, Lee Dillian, who's the associate dean here. He runs a small business program which works with Boise State University to get small businesses to start up. We have a concurrent accountancy degree. We have a forthcoming MBA degree with Boise State. As you can see, we also have an economic development clinic which works with communities to streamline their regulations so that entrepreneurs can get started more effectively with economic development projects. We represent taxpayers against the IRS using a grant from the IRS, and most of those, or many of those clients, are small business people. So we are here to help in Boise with the economic development role of the land grant mission. We think that there are opportunities for our students there. We rank 49th in the country in terms of attorneys per capita. That's very similar to the medical situation. As the president mentioned, roughly 26% of new lawyers in Idaho are University of Idaho graduates. About 3/4 come in from outside Idaho because we are not providing a cost-effective education inside Idaho. Holding down the number of seats in public legal education does not hold down the number of lawyers. It only means that we bring them in with a higher debt because they paid out-of-state tuition or they paid private school tuition, and then they have to charge their clients more, whether it's communities or individuals, and that's a hidden tax on Idahoans.
Thank you, Dean. Any other questions? Dr. Schmidt. I brought that up because we're through with the law area.
I was expecting Senator. But
Senator Schmidt. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I think by statute we can address the limit on lawyers in Idaho. In all seriousness, President Nellis, I appreciate your presentation, and you had a slide that referred to the incorporation of innovation and technological developments at the University of Idaho. Now, my understanding was that the iGEMS initiative that we did last year was supposed to stimulate this, but it sounds to me like this was something that was already ongoing and fruitful at the University of Idaho. So could you describe to me how we have helped you?
President?
Madam Chair and Senator Schmidt, thank
President,
you.
you may have to put that mic back up closer to the knot on your tie. There we go. You have a good voice.
Okay, Madam Chair, thank you. And Senator Schmidt, thank you for that question. iGEM has really provided the fuel in many ways to move us to that next level as far as our innovation and partnering with industry. Often the issue is this valley of death where we have great ideas, but we have no bridge funding to get us to that outcome as far as new technological innovation or a new discovery that leads to a new business startup. So with the iGEM funding that we've received so far, we've used it in an area we think has tremendous potential as far as business development and supports as well businesses in Idaho, and that's around the cybersecurity area. There's still money. I know the iGEM Council is looking at providing additional funding that they have through your generosity and support for some even smaller partnering opportunities with businesses where they have an idea or we have an idea and we can work together, but neither one has the bridge funding to move the discovery and analysis to that next level. So we certainly had those initiatives going on. We've been committed to partnering with industry in our state for a long time, but we've really taken that up to a more entrepreneurial level here since I've been at the University of Idaho in the last 4 years, and we're excited about that. We have over 250 business partners across the state of Idaho and throughout the Northwest, whether it's Schweitzer Engineering or Micron or Simplot or AgriBeef or our commodity groups, which have been extremely supportive of us. We're working together. You know, the Wheat Commission made a significant commitment to us in partnering with us to leverage our research in that area. We are the research arm for the agricultural industry, as you'll hear with John Foltz's presentation here shortly. But we have used those funds effectively as a catalyst to kind of take us to that next level as far as our research enterprise.
Senator Vick.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dr. Nellis, I have two different questions, if I might, Madam Chairman. One is on the performance-based funding initiative, and how are you changing what you do at the university to accommodate that goal and attract some of that funding?
President.
Madam Chair and Senator Vick, thank you for that question. We are positive about the state board's initiative for performance-based funding, performance-based contracts. I came from Kansas State University, where we had performance contracts with our state board, and I think the design here is similar to what we have had in place in Kansas, but we believe this will help drive us forward to provide additional incentives for us to be more efficient. We have been very efficient in the last 4 years with budget challenges we've had. In fact, we're providing students with a quality education at about 20% less cost than we were 4 years ago. So we've driven efficiencies into that. But the performance contract with our state board will incentivize even more efficiency as we look at more effective use of technology and integrated learning and other styles that will allow us to be more effective in serving the citizens of Idaho. The state needs more STEM graduates, and one of our performance goals is to increase the number of STEM graduates that we have. We are already doing a strong job in that area. We have over 50% of the state's STEM graduates coming from the University of Idaho. About 37% of our graduates at the University of Idaho are STEM, in the STEM area, science, technology, engineering, and math. But one of our goals is to increase that to a higher level. We want to continue to grow our research enterprise through, and performance funding will incentivize moving that forward. We are at about $100 million. My goal is to increase that by 50% by 2020. And that's going to be a catalyst to new business startups in our state and synergies with other universities and colleges in our state. And I'm excited about that. So those are some of the examples of how performance funding can help us and provide us with criteria and goals that we think will help move our institution forward. And we are very supportive of the state board's efforts in performance funding, and we're pleased that Governor Otter has recommended to the legislature funding in that area as well. It will benefit us if we receive performance funding. I think it's a little over $1 million that we would get additional funding, base funding, and certainly that can, again, catalyze us through investments in new faculty, provide important new infrastructure. You know, I was in some of our classrooms, and the JFAC members have seen some of this, but I was in one of our largest classrooms at the university this last week, and you walk in there and you think you've gone back about 60 years. It's the same seats, the same desks that when the building was first constructed. It was the Agriculture 106, and John Foltz knows about this building, but it's used as a general classroom. It holds about 400 students, I think. But the seats, the paddings wore out. The lighting is what it was 60 years ago. We need those types of investments to improve what we have and to provide opportunities for our students. So performance funding provides additional resources, I think, to help us meet the needs of our state and recognizes our performance and provides stretch goals for us to move us forward in positive ways.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My other question has to do with, I think it was the last slide you showed, was you were building another building. And I just wonder how the university works with determining the need for new buildings with the growing demand for online classes, and how that affects your planning as far as new buildings go and the demand for those.
President.
Madam Chair and Senator Vick, thank you for that question. Again, we're certainly committed to online learning. In fact, with our concurrent enrollment with high schools in our state, we've increased that just in the last year by 50%. We have over 900 high school students now taking classes through the University of Idaho. We want to grow that significantly more, but we're pleased with the progress we're making in that area. But there's also the research and the unique experiences that students have working with our faculty on our campus in a residential setting that can't be mirrored through virtual learning. To have opportunities to be in the lab, to work side by side with a faculty member doing cutting edge research, whether it's nanospring technology or some new variety of wheat or some new way of treating the zebra disease in potatoes or other related activities. This building will take us to that next level as far as serving our state as far as research, but also provide an opportunity for both undergraduate and graduate students to work in an interdisciplinary environment. This building is designed something like the K's building, which facilitates very interactive research and learning. And we think it's a state-of-the-art facility. You know, many research projects of the past were more silo-like. You know, the biologists worked with biologists, and the geologists worked with geologists, and the chemists with chemists. Today, cutting-edge research involves interdisciplinary teams coming together, and they need the right type of lab structures and support to make that happen. And so this research facility will allow us to move to that next level. But that doesn't stop us from doing the work that we need to do in technology and blended learning and creating virtual environments to enhance the learning environment for our students through distance education as well.
Further questions? Senator Thane.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dr. Nellis, a similar question, and that is the students that take dual credit or concurrent credit classes in high school, how are they performing at the University of Idaho when they do arrive?
President.
Madam Chair and Senator Thane, thank you for that question as well. And I think the students are generally performing well online with the dual credit classes. I think we work very closely with the high schools to make sure they have the appropriate support within the high school system. We're providing a lot of courses that some of our small high schools in our state don't have the opportunity to have a teaching core to support. For example, we've developed a pre-calculus class that's online to support our students statewide in high schools that might not have the opportunity to take a pre-calculus class because of the size of their teaching core in their school. And I think those, again, with the support mechanisms and the design, I think those students have been very successful. The key is, though, really focusing on quality and making sure many of these classes take a lot of faculty time and investment and support, and they have to be very interactive. It's not like putting a talking head online, and making it work. It has to be designed very carefully and thoughtfully and interactively to make it work. But I think it's going well, and we just need to reach out and get more of those teachers involved. That's why I'm excited about this new center that the Albertson Foundation, they're providing us with $3 million, the University of Idaho, and we're partnering also with Idaho Nazarene University, Northwest Nazarene University, on that project. And we're creating a center where we're going to do work with K-12 teachers on the use of technology in the classroom and try to find the most effective models for providing curriculum to our students. And I think it's a great step forward for our state, and we're excited about that and what it can do for our state as well.
Yes, follow up? Go ahead.
Thank you for that answer. When those students that do take those online classes in the high school arrive at your campus, how are they performing as students, college students?
Go ahead, President.
Madam Chair and Senator Thane, thank you. again, for that question, and they're doing quite well. We actually get, we have very limited amount of remedial education for the students that we have at the University of Idaho. We're, you know, our average grade point of our incoming freshman class this last year was around a 3.4 grade point average. So we're getting good quality students, and I think they're well prepared. And generally, when they get there, they do well. Our retention rates are over 80% at the University of Idaho from freshman to sophomore. We're not. That's good, I think, but it's not where we want it to be. We continue to strive for higher levels of success. But many times it's not necessarily an academic issue that causes those students to leave. They're homesick or they have other personal issues. But those students that are at our university as freshmen and those that do have academic difficulties, we have early warning systems to identify when they're struggling and can provide support to them to make sure that they have the support they need to try to correct that and be successful as they move forward.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Dr. Nellis, has anyone done like benefit cost type numbers, state economy numbers, when you talk about like grains research, what we might expect from that long term, or the research you're doing, sage grouse, fires, habitat, that kind of thing, or the interdisciplinary center? Has anything like that been worked up?
President Nellis.
Madam Chair and Representative Miller, thank you for that question. On so return on investment, is that kind of what you're getting at? Well, I think we can look at how much we're spending in wheat research, for example, and then look at the wheat industry. We are essentially the research arm for many of the agricultural commodities in our state, and the wheat industry alone is, I think, over $800 million in cash receipts this last year. We're the potato research arm for the potato industry. We work very closely with the potato growers and with industries like Simplot. But I do think the return on investment is significant. We're providing fuel to that. A significant amount of the wheat grown in Idaho was developed. Those varieties were developed at the University of Idaho. So I don't have a specific figure that I can give you as far as return, but I think if you look, the state invests about $100 million in total to the University of Idaho each year as far as our state appropriation of our total $455 million budget. And I think if you look at the economic return on that, again, we're about $1 billion industry in our state, so significant economic return. And then the multipliers that come out, like with wheat or potatoes, the ag receipts this last year were, I think, over $7 billion, and so significant contribution.
Thank you for that. However, the inputs were over 8 into ag, so
yeah, sorry.
But, so it's all relative, but it was a good year. It looks like we have one more question, Representative Ringo, on the budget.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.
The question from Representative Thane caused me to wonder about this. I visited a lot of schools, and it seems like the rural ones in particular, I'll see more kids taking something online because that's the choice they have. But do you actually have a mechanism where you track students that have studied something online as opposed to a traditional in-class, and what their success is when you get them? I mean, do you have information like that?
President.
Madam Chair and Representative Ringo, I don't know. I was going to look at our provost. I don't think so. That would be very useful. It'd be interesting to look with this new center. One of the opportunities, I think, is really to understand some of those contrasts in the use of technology versus not using it, and the enhancement that might come from technology or not come from technology. Part of it certainly is the design of each course. I'm sure it would vary depending on the way in which that's been designed. But yeah, the Polya Center is an example at the university where it's our integrated math learning lab, which uses technology. And in that, the pass rates for students in our math courses has gone up significantly, the success, through that integrated learning. Because they get direct feedback. They're not, they don't have a professor in the front of the room with a chalkboard working problems, and the students are supposed to somehow absorb that, versus now it's integrated right with them. They work problems on the computer, and they get immediate feedback, and their assistants roving through the lab, and that is a national example. We've received awards for the Apoya lab. So at the university level, we've certainly seen improvements through the use of technology.
Thank you, President. I see no further questions. Thank you so much for being with us. You've been on your feet an hour, and I appreciate that and look forward to working with you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you so much, and thanks to all the members of JFAC. I appreciate the opportunity to serve as the president of the University of Idaho and serve this state. Thank you very much.
And we're happy you're there.
Thank you.
Dean Foltz will be next, and come forth and put a microphone on your tie. Good morning. Welcome to the committee. The mic is right there by you, and it goes right up against the knot on your tie. We look forward to hearing from you. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
So I'm looking for some tech help here. So,
Well, we have lots of that.
I hope that the presentation is here. There we go, right there.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Professors are used to doing this on their own. Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee. Thank you for listening to my presentation this morning. My name is John Foltz, and I'm interim dean for the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences. For the last 9 years, you folks have heard from another John, John Hamill, who I'm replacing, resigned here in December after 9 successful years, and would just like to say in this public forum, thanks for his efforts on our behalf for the state and for the College of Ag and Life Sciences. I'd like to introduce some of the members of our administrative team today. Dr. Don Till, who is our Director of Experiment Station and Research, and so my presentation today for our Agricultural Research and Extension Service is in large part what he deals with. And then Dr. Charlotte Eberlein, who is our Director of Extension, housed in the Twin Falls area. And then several other people I would like to introduce. Rich Garber, that many of you know, who's our Director for Industry and Government Relations here in Boise. Kim O'Neill is our Director of Development. She's down with us today and helping to raise outside funds for our college. And then Cheryl Sodorf, who is our Director of Administrative Services, the personnel, and she's the person that takes care of our budget and tells us how much money of yours that you give us we can spend. And then, I don't know, Dr. Gould, Celia Gould, supporting us here today from the Idaho State Department of Agriculture. And then several other people that we've got here supporting our efforts. Bob Nearbaut, who's Executive Director of the Idaho Dairymen's Association, and Wayne Prescott, who's Executive Director of the Idaho Cattle Association. Appreciate their support as well. We've got members of the Idaho Wheat Commission here that are supporting us, and you heard from Dr. Nellis that they've come forth with some private money to help us with some of our research, and I'll use that as some examples here in a couple minutes. And then we're also streaming live, as you know, and so we're being supported by members of the food producers who are watching remotely. And then the last person I'd like to recognize is Wayne Thiessen, who's one of our alum and serves on our 4-H board. So lots of support here, and then I guess I should recognize President Nellis sticking around and supporting our efforts as well. So if you look at our request, and many of you folks are new on this appropriations committee, so why is the College of Ag and Life Sciences making an additional request in addition to what the university is requesting? The Agricultural Research and Extension Service appropriation is a separate line item from the University of Idaho. And so our college, represented CALS, not cows, CALS, short for College of Agricultural and Life Sciences, is a large part of the land grant mission. And so, yes, we do teaching. A little bit about myself, my background. I've been Associate Dean for the academic side of our house for the last 8 years and just moved 4 weeks ago into the role of interim dean, which I'll serve until we select a permanent dean sometime this next year. So I've been involved in the teaching and student part of our mission. But a very large part of our mission as a college is in the research area and in the experiment station, with the experiment station and then the extension service that I'll describe a little bit more here with some of the other slides that I've got. So the appropriation that you folks provide us helps provide the infrastructure and the expertise to deliver what we do as a university and particularly as a college out to our stakeholders in the state, and it also allows us to partner. And so I'll talk a little bit more towards the end of my presentation about some of the partnerships that we've worked on the last couple of years. We really appreciate the legislature supporting us with our appropriation last year. The additional $325,000 that you provided for operating costs went a long ways toward updating some of our aging equipment and providing our employees and staff and faculty with the resources that they need to accomplish what we expect them to do. So you saw a map presented by President Nellis here a couple minutes ago showing our statewide reach, and a large portion of that statewide reach is provided by the College of Ag and Life Sciences. Specifically, we have 11 facilities statewide represented by the stars in red on the map, and then we have extension offices in 42 of 44 counties. We have over 370 employees statewide, and those folks deliver a wide variety of programs, of which I can take some questions at the end, and then I have some specific examples that I'm going to share with you. And if you visited our legislative breakfast this morning, you saw some additional programs that we offer throughout the state. The focus of each of those centers, I won't go into detail, but that's found on page 144 of your budget book. And so if you have specific questions, I can try to answer them, or I can direct those to Dr. Eberlein or Dr. Till. But suffice it to say that we have broad statewide reach, and we deliver our programs throughout the state. So what is extension? I grew up with it. I'm a product of a land-grant university. I went to school at Ohio State and got my PhD at Purdue. I worked in industry for a number of years for Ralston Carina, the feed company. So what does extension do? As represented by this graphic, it is what the word says. It extends the knowledge. It integrates the knowledge of what we do at the university to our stakeholders throughout the state. And so we have researchers on campus and faculty and staff around the state that develop solutions to problems that people have. And then the people in the middle are our extension faculty and staff that take what we help develop and deliver that to our stakeholders. And you'll see that there's a couple of feedback loops. So one of the feedbacks is by our stakeholders through extension personnel back to our faculty and staff on campus and throughout the state. And then sometimes that comes back directly to researchers, and sometimes people will pick up the phone and call one of our faculty and say, I've got this problem, I need some help. And so we'll help to develop solutions to those in the lab, or I'm an ag economist. A little bit like lawyers, sometimes people think there's too many economists. But going through the thought process of how do we extend what we do and what's the economic impact. I don't know if you folks read here recently in the Capitol Press that Idaho moved into third place regionally in terms of our agricultural production. We're now behind California is number 1 and Washington is number 2. Idaho is number 3 in terms of agricultural production of 11 states in the West. And I know some of you are on the Economic Assessment and Revenue Committee, and I presented there a couple weeks ago looking at the importance of agriculture to the state's economy. All told, in terms of the inputs that come into agriculture and the outputs that we produce and the food processing that we have throughout the state, we account for about 20 to 25% of the state's economy. So a little overview in terms of how extension works, and that's what our request is today, is to help support these people that help our citizens throughout the state. So I've got a couple of specific examples, and the first is 4-H. Dr. Nellis referenced that. We've got over 36,000 youth across the state that are involved in 4-H. And I would put forth that if you look at 4-H as a workforce development program, why is it that? Students and young people can get involved in a variety of different projects. If they get interested in those things, they can go on and do those things in college. And so it's not just in the agricultural sciences area, it's in nutrition, it's in science. It's in a whole variety of areas that those students and young people can get involved in. And our efforts here strongly support Governor Otter's Project 60, which some of you might have heard of. It's an initiative to grow Idaho's economy from $51.5 billion to $60 billion. And his first goal in that initiative is to foster systematic growth by maintaining and enhancing Idaho's workforce. And I would say that 4-H is a great example of a pipeline to higher education. Sure, the University of Idaho helps to run 4-H through our extension program, but it helps to get those students on campus through 4-H events, and it gets them interested in learning. And then the other notes that I have listed in that slide, Tufts University did a study, and students and young people that were involved in 4-H are twice as likely to attend college as their peers, and they're twice as likely to pursue science education and careers in science as their colleagues. And then, so that's on the positive side. On the preventing the negative side, the note there that 4-H members are half as likely to use drugs, and then the Department of Justice highly recommends 4-H as a program throughout the country to prevent students from going and getting involved in crime. And I know that you folks have to balance the education and penal system and that sort of thing. So I would say put more money into the good stuff and you won't have to put as much money into the bad. And I've got an example here of a young person that has some robotics. So Ben from the Boise area here has an example of a robot that he has developed as a part of our first tech challenge. So this is a statewide program that is sponsored by 4-H, and Ben has part of his brain on this robot. It's a little programmable, like a Game Boy, that students can develop to achieve certain objectives that they have as a part of this first tech challenge. So it's a pipeline program that starts with elementary school students where they build robot Legos using a similar brain, and then move on into high school programs like what Ben has, and this robot will achieve a whole series of challenges that they compete with across the state. And so tagging on with what President Ellis said in terms of STEM education, I think this is a great example of how we can get young people excited about challenging problems and working on fun things that get them engaged. So let's move into a little more of the agricultural area. You heard Dr. Nellis talk about zebra chip. Well, that's an important potato disease that our researchers are working on. And so I've got some pictures here in this slide. Zebra chip is exactly what it defines. It makes potato chips look like zebras. So they are variegated, and Dr. Till is passing around a potato with the zebra chip bacteria. It's a bacteria that's spread by a potato psyllid, and I've got a picture of that bug up here too. Oh, I'm supposed to call it an insect, it's not a bug. So the vector is the thing that spreads it, that's the potato psyllid, and it transmits this bacteria to potatoes. Not of risk to human health, but it does cause a real problem with the way the potato chips look. The potato industry doesn't like that. The potato chip manufacturers don't like it. So what have we done to address that? It actually reduces yield. So there was a Texas grower here recently that lost half of his crop to the zebra chip bacteria. And he spent over $500 an acre to help control it. So it reduces tuber yield or potato yield and quality. The economic impact is currently unknown, but we've got growers here in Idaho that are spending up to $175 an acre to control it. So the university, through our research and extension service, have put together a team of 13 of our faculty and staff represented across the state by the counties that you see here and the stars to address this. And they've come up with recommendations for growers of how they can reduce the incidence of it. They've put on extension presentations and put together some publications that help growers address this problem that is of significant impact to them. You've heard, I'm sure many times, but it bears repeating, that Idaho's potatoes are our largest crop, worth over $978 million this past year. And I think the point that I would make with this and why it's worth investing in our research and extension services is that it allows us to have the resources to collaborate with our partners. And so we have our partners listed here: the Idaho State Department of Agriculture, the Idaho Potato Commission, the Agricultural Research Service, which is part of USDA, and then our partner institutions of Washington State University and Oregon State University. So an important problem that we've addressed through research, that through extension we have helped our growers throughout the state in terms of addressing. Dr. Nellis also addressed this. Wheat is our second largest crop, worth almost $800 million this past year. 43% of Idaho wheat is soft white wheat. I'm an agricultural economist. All I know about the differences in wheat is that you do different things with them. Some of them are good for bread, some of them are good for cookies, and some of them are good for crackers and biscuits. But we have representatives of the Idaho Wheat Commission here today that I'm sure would be willing to visit with you about the type of wheat that they grow on their farms and what it goes into. But of that 43% of soft white wheat that is produced in Idaho, 32% of it comes from varieties that were developed by our wheat breeders. And so significant economic impact, worth over $100 million to the state of Idaho in terms of economic impact. And so we have worked these partnerships, and one of those partnerships that has come about here in the last year or two is a partnership with one of the largest seed companies in the world, Lima Grain, who is partnering with us and is going to provide us an opportunity to work with their germplasm, and then they're interested in our germplasm as well to make it available both within Idaho and beyond Idaho. We've put together a 15-person team represented by the locations that you see here across the state that develops these adapted varieties that develop or allow our growers to sell them to companies that make nutritious products for the people across the United States. And I've got some examples here. So 10% of Idaho's soft white wheat goes into Wheaties. And so both of my sons are swimmers, as Dr. Schmidt well knows. Michael Phelps on the Wheaties box, but eat your Wheaties and you'll grow strong, and 10% of Idaho's soft white wheat goes into Wheaties. But then something that you might not know is that between 7 and 10% of Idaho's soft white wheat goes into goldfish crackers. And so if you like goldfish, you're eating Idaho wheat. And then we also put Idaho wheat into Oreo cookies. And that's the one that's my favorite. So dipping them into milk, which is, I'm not talking about here, but many of you know we've moved into third production nationally in terms of milk production. That's right. And so Oreo cookies and milk go really well. So let's talk a little bit about some of those partnerships. And so on this slide, I have a list of a number of the partnerships that we've put together over the last couple of years. And these partnerships have helped us to do some very amazing things. I would stand for some questions at the end of my presentation if you're interested in some of the specifics. But they've helped the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences move forward in all facets of what we do across the state of Idaho. And we've talked some about the agricultural research that we do, the work with extension through 4-H and extending our knowledge and research throughout the state. Some of you may not know that our college is quite broad. Not only do we include agricultural sciences, but we include the life sciences, which include family and consumer sciences, nutrition, early childhood education, clothing, textiles, and design. And in fact, in terms of student numbers, that's our largest department within the 7 departments that we have in our college. And some of those partnerships are represented here by some of the logos that you'll see that you might not recognize as being agricultural industries, but are related to families and to food and nutrition. So those are things that your investment allows us to partner with these people and to multiply our efforts and your investment across the state. So let's talk specifically about what our request is, and we go to the pie chart here. Our request for our agricultural research and extension service appropriation is a little less than $24 million. You'll see the total there at the bottom. But the things that I would like to draw your attention to here is the percentage or the large chunk of this pie that salaries and fringe benefits makes up. That percentage is almost 90%. And so the past couple years, as much of higher education, we have seen some budget reductions in our budget. But we have tried very, very hard to be judicious with your investment in us, and we've kept our people. And our most dynamic and resilient resource is the people in the College of Ag and Life Sciences that we have across the state. And that's where, as you see in this graph, that's the majority of our investment. Kind of a rule of thumb for organizations or other universities comparable to ours is that that percentage should be about 85%. So how do we achieve that? We can achieve that by our supporting the governor's request of an additional $1 million in operating for our college's research and extension across the state. So this allows us to do our job, to give our people the resources that they need. And I think Representative Miller was asking the president about return on investment. Our return on investment, at least in terms of your investment, is about $1.70 for every dollar that you invest in research and extension across the state. So how do these dollars support our efforts? Well, I've got some pictures here that show the things that we invest in. And so we've continued to invest in our people. We've had some tough times the past couple of years, but Governor Otter has recognized the importance of agricultural research and extension to Idaho's economy and has committed his support to rebuilding our infrastructure and providing operating funds for personnel. And so we support his request, which hopefully some of you have heard about, of an increase in $5 million over the next 5 years in this appropriation. And so, as you might expect, we're strong supporters of that. But I think the case that I'm making here is that we make good use of those funds. And it's okay to have people, but if those people don't have the resources to do their job, which is what the operating allows them to do the things that you see here, to buy equipment, to travel, to put on meetings, to provide irrigation water, to maintain our greenhouse facilities across the state, to help us buy fertilizer and seed and fuel to accomplish the job that you want us to do. In short, these funds will help us be more effective in doing the things that you want us to do. And so with that, I will move to the final slide in my presentation, which is the additional request that's coming from the governor in terms of the budget. This is the $1 million that he has put in his budget, and this is how he is proposing to expend it. So $650,000 for operating expense, $350,000 for capital outlay, and then if you add this all up, it's a little more than $1 million. Occupancy costs of a little over $13,000, and then employee benefit costs of $130,000. So, Madam Chair, with that, I will wrap up my presentation and stand for questions.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate that. And Ben, thank you so much for coming with your robot. Any other questions for Dean Foltz? Senator Mortimer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Dean Foltz. Just quickly, I was noticing in the budget book in 2013 that we had an increase of staff of 2.83. Could you just tell us what increase of staff you had and what they were used for, please?
Dean Foltz.
Madam Chair and Senator Mortimer, I will have to defer to the experts. since I've been on the job for 4 weeks, I don't have all the answers. So
We'll have someone get that for the senator, if that works okay, and get it for all of us. And I can appreciate the fact that
Thank you, Madam
4
Chair.
weeks isn't quite a lifetime
to
with
the
a job.
rescue. All right.
So I'm sure somebody within the sound of your voice, Senator,
So specific question on what we did with the money and those particular employees.
what those employees are
Sure.
doing.
And I guess if I might, just one of the
You bet.
things that, I don't have the specific answer, but in our appropriation, oftentimes those dollars will go across just more than 2 people because our faculty have both research, extension, and teaching responsibilities.
Surely.
And so sometimes that may end up being spread across 3 or 4 or 5 people. But we'll try and get that for you.
We'll get
So
it. I'm
I
sure
would
we'll
say
get
that
it. Thank you, Senator, for
we'll
your
make a note of
patience.
that.
Anyone else? Any other questions for Dean? Well, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate you being with us, and welcome to the job, and wish you great success.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We are going to now take a little break, and that way you can visit. So at 9:45, we'll be back to work. With that, we're at recess.
Welcome to Idaho in Session, Legislature Live. Funding is provided by the Idaho State Broadcasters Association, with additional support from the Union Pacific Foundation, the Idaho Association of Counties, the Association of Idaho Cities, the Idaho Cable Telecommunications Association, and your contributions to the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Welcome to Idaho in Session, Legislature Live. Funding is provided by the Idaho State Broadcasters Association, with additional support from the Union Pacific Foundation, the Idaho Association of Counties, the Association of Idaho Cities, the Idaho Cable Telecommunications Association, and your contributions to the Idaho Public Television Endowment. Welcome to Idaho in Session, Legislature Live. Funding is provided by the Idaho State Broadcasters Association, with additional support from the Union Pacific Foundation, the Idaho Association of Counties, the Association of Idaho Cities, the Idaho Cable Telecommunications Association, and your contributions to the Idaho Public Television Endowment.
Mayor. We'll come back to order. And we'll start with Dr. Rush with the Office of the State Board of Education, and he's going to take us into the health education programs. Nice to have you with us, Dr. Rush. On the tie. There you go. You know the drill. Thank you.
You know, if I do this a couple more years, I may actually figure it out. I figured out this is my 16th year, actually.
Well, it's wonderful. And this is the most beautiful room in the Capitol, but the sound is not the greatest. But if everybody speaks up, and that way we need to hear. So thank you.
Well, I'm going to make a real effort. I got a little bit of a cold, so
okay.
if you need to prod me along, just feel free. Well, good morning, Madam Chair, Mr. Co-Chair, and members of the committee. A lot of faces I recognize, but a lot of faces I'm not so familiar with, so I hope to correct that in the next coming months. In addition to the institutions and agencies you have been hearing from, the State Board also has responsibility for a number of specific programs that are funded directly by the legislature. 4 years ago, the State Board approved a strategic direction for expanding graduate and undergraduate medical education. Shortly after that, our economy stalled and many of those plans were put into a holding pattern. But the board genuinely appreciates the support of this committee over the last 4 years during that time in maintaining the infrastructure we did have in place. I know that you folks that were here pulled out a lot of stops to try to maintain the support that we had to keep those programs operational. But in terms of our long-term plan, we're running out of time. Idaho has one of the highest average age of doctors in the United States. And just for an example, if we were to approve the 5 WWAMI positions that are being requested, those doctors would first be available in the year 2020. And so we're running out of time. This morning, you're going to hear from the program directors for 3 existing health education programs and 1 new health education program. There's the WWAMI Medical Education Program by Dr. Mary Baranaga, the Family Medicine Residency Programs, Ted Epperly and Bill Woodhouse, the Boise Internal Medicine Residency Program, Dr. Scott Smith, and the Psychiatry Residency Program, Dr. Gerald Jones. I'd also like to address 4 additional health education programs which receive state support. You'll find the health education programs begin on 1-79 of your legislative budget book. And the 4 that you won't be hearing from this morning are the University of Utah Medical Education Program. It's a contract we have with the University of Utah for 8 seats per year for a total of 32 seats. Idaho students spend all 4 years at the University of Utah in Salt Lake. In addition to these Idaho-sponsored students, Idaho is clearly a net importer of U of U graduates. We've estimated in the last 50 years, sponsored 224 students through that program. We estimate 257 medical school graduates from Utah practicing in Idaho and 147 residence graduates. The second program is the Washington-Idaho Veterinary Education Program, which provides Idaho residents with access to a veterinary medical education through a cooperative agreement between the University of Idaho and Washington State University. This program uses the combined resources of the University of Idaho Kane Veterinary Teaching Center in Caldwell total of 32 seats, and Idaho students spend their first year at ISU in Pocatello and their second through 4th years at Creighton. And finally, Idaho is contracted for 2 seats per year for a total of 8 seats in the optometry programs at either Pacific University or Southern California College of Optometry. However, due to a poor return rate from optometrists from those programs, several years ago the board recommended phasing out the funding for this program, and this phase out will be complete at the end of fiscal year 2013. With that, I'd like to have Dr. Baranaga come up and talk about the WWAMI program.
That would be just perfect. Welcome to the committee. Dr. Baranaga and Dr. Turner also. Nice to have you with us. And that mic where you're seated, Dr. Turner, also works if you're teaming here. So the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
If you speak right up.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of JFAC. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here this morning. My name is Mary Baranaga, and I'm with the Idaho WWAMI program, and this is Dr. Andrew Turner, who's our first-year site director at the University of Idaho with the WWAMI program. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Cambridge, Idaho. I went through the Idaho WWAMI program for medical school and did my family medicine training here in Boise, and then practiced in Plummer, Idaho for 12 years prior to returning back to Boise. I'm currently working with the residency. I teach residents and medical students and see my patients here. So thank you very much for your support for WWAMI through the years. It's been a really great program. We're coming to you with an additional budget request for fiscal year 14 for support of adding 5 additional Idaho WAMI students per year who will participate in a new rural training program known as TRUST. And TRUST stands for the Targeted Rural Underserved Track. This is on page 1-84 in your budget books. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about why we're requesting more students for fiscal year 14 and what TRUST is all about. As many of you know, Idaho has very significant physician workforce challenges. This slide has a lot of statistics on it, but the one that I would like to draw your attention to today is the fact that Idaho ranks 49th in the nation for the number of medical student positions per capita. The national average is 25 per 100,000 population, and Idaho has 5. When WAMI started about 41 years ago, we had 20 positions per class. The state of Idaho has doubled in size since that time, and we still have 20 students per class. The good news is that over the years, we have produced hundreds of high-quality physicians who practice within their home state. Our rate of return is 50%, which is significantly higher than the national average of 41%, and your return on investment for the Idaho WAMI program is 73%. Where do our graduates go to practice in Idaho? This map shows you that throughout the years, our graduates have set up practice throughout the state. And in fact, if you look closely, you may find that you have a WAMI graduate or more than one graduate practicing in your own home district. We are keeping a really careful eye on what our graduates are choosing for specialties. This graph is really busy, but if you look towards the right, what it shows is that more than half of our graduates throughout the year have chosen family medicine as their specialty of choice. But the other important take-home message from this slide is that our graduates also choose specialties that Idaho has critical shortages of as well, such as general internal medicine, general surgery, emergency medicine, and others. In 2009, the Idaho State Board of Education attempted to address the physician workforce shortage in Idaho by making several recommendations. One of the recommendations was to increase the number of medical student positions. Unfortunately, because of the economic climate, this has not been able to be achieved yet. The road to become a physician is several years. Dr. Rush mentioned that if we were to expand this year, our first graduates wouldn't even be coming out until approximately 2020. This physician pipeline starts with kindergarten through 12, and then a student goes to college, and that's typically 4 years, and then 4 years of medical school. But when you graduate from medical school, you have your doctorate, but you can't go out and practice until you do further training in your specialty of choice. And so that's called a residency. And then you can end up becoming a practicing physician. The critical thing, and the reason why we call this a pipeline, is that if any portion of this process is not there, you don't end up with a practicing physician. So each part of this pipeline is absolutely critical in Idaho. This map of Idaho shows you our physician pipeline in Idaho. Everywhere you see a mark on this map, that's where we have medical students and or residents training within our state. By being part of the WAMI program, it's a 5-state partnership. Our students also have access to training sites throughout the 5-state region. So everywhere you see a mark on this map, we have students and residents training to become physicians. With our incoming class of 2013, the Idaho WAMI program is starting TRUST. TRUST stands for the Targeted Rural Underserved Track. The goal of this new program is to get our graduates to go into rural and underserved Idaho and practice and serve those communities. The way we're going to do this is select applicants who come from these Idaho communities that are rural and underserved, or students that have very significant interest in going back to a community like that. We're lucky because we have a very rich applicant pool. So we're going to start with admissions. We're going to choose those students who we think will have a very high chance of going back. We will then, once they're accepted, we will match a student to a rural or underserved community in Idaho.
July 2014. Just as a quick reminder, what Mary was talking about are medical students. That's the first part of the pipeline after college, 4 years of medical school. What Bill and I do on our day jobs is then we train these medical student graduates in our residency programs for an additional 3 years to be high-quality family physicians. Here's an example of one of our residents, Rebecca Katzman, who actually came from New York City to our residency program here in Boise, Idaho, seeing one of her patients. One of the neat things about family physicians is that it's the type of physician a community needs. We train them broadly in all skills, from delivering babies to taking care of kids, to taking care of folks all through the age span and at the end of life. These folks then go into their communities and they morph into the type of doctor those communities need. From Salmon, Idaho to Montpelier to Boise to Sandpoint. Everything in between, a family doc can serve those sorts of folks. They have a comprehensive breadth. They see people continuously over time. They know all the members of the family. It leads to better high-quality outcomes. It's cost-effective care. We do this in what's called the patient-centered medical home model. You may hear that term through the legislature through the course of this year. Our mission is to educate, to serve, and in that process, we recruit, if you will, import to this state, and retain folks in this state. Idaho and much of Idaho is rural and frontier. In fact, all but 4 counties in Idaho are health profession shortage areas for primary care. Dr. Baranaga shared with you some of the statistics about us being 49th in the United States in terms of physicians per population ratio. We tied for last in the number of primary care physicians. We have an issue. Idaho's growing. We have 46% of our physicians are over age 50, 23% are over age 60. Now, those are kind of some startling statistics. The good news is that we've done quite a bit of work in terms of innovation to make this work in a state like Idaho. Rural frontier, getting these residents trained throughout all of our states so we can retain them in our state. Between Bill's program in Pocatello and mine in Boise, we have 57 years of residency training experience. Our class has grown at the governor's request and the legislature's support to 16 per class in each of 3 years. The ISU program to 7 residents per year. We've had 266 graduates from our program in Boise, 144, or right at 55% have settled in our state. At the Pocatello program, 89 graduates, right at 50%, or 44 graduates settling in the state. On average, each family physician cares for about 1,800 to 2,000 patients, with about 4,000 office visits per year. Each family physician in Idaho, recent study, showed that it generates for the community about $800,000 in economic impact for that community. One of the other good pieces of news in the fact that we've been innovative and creative as a model in the state is that we've been able to rank 8th in the United States in terms of our retaining residents in the state of Idaho once they've trained in the state of Idaho. If we get them in, we'll keep them here. That's one of the things that we like to do. Because of our innovation, we've been able to export innovative ways to both recruit and retain family physicians in the state of Idaho. We've been able and we've been contracted by the states of Wyoming, Alaska, California, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Maine to use our model for those states to help them with the retention and recruitment of family doctors in their states. So we're doing quite a bit to try to make this work for Idaho. It's a natural laboratory to try to make this work in terms of the type of pipeline to get family doctors into the state. Between Bill's program and mine, we've been able to bring in about $20 million in federal research and training dollars over the last decade. Our funding request is for a 7% increase to keep our programs whole, to keep them vibrant, to keep them working for the good of Idaho. What this practically breaks out to is currently each ISU resident is funded at about $35,000 per resident. Our program in Boise at about $22,500. The 7% increase would help the ISU program per resident state support go to $37,000. It takes about $150,000 per resident to train a resident, just to put a number out there for you to compare this to. About $24,000 then to the family medicine program here in Boise. An example again of what we do on a daily basis. Here's a cesarean section delivering a baby. I also want to make just a couple other points before I turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Woodhouse. The education that happens in each of our programs is way beyond just family physicians. We not only work to train our family medicine residents, but take a look at this list. Medical students, pre-medical students, pharmacy residents, pharmacy students, dental residents, nursing students, nurse practitioner students, physical therapy and occupational therapy students, nutritionists, health educators, psychologists, IT personnel, lab technicians, business administration folks, medical assistants, physician assistants, and physician assistant students. These are schoolhouses. These are senior, graduate, medical, nursing, dental, education schoolhouses. Again, what they really truly are for the communities is a resource because we find value in training teams together for communities. It's about how they all work together that starts to provide health to a community. Example here of some of the training process. Just remind you on the service aspect, we care for a lot of people. We see about 55,000 clinic visits a year here in the Boise program, 18,000 in Pocatello. We do all sorts of obstetrical, emergency department, pediatrics, adult medicine, and rural admissions to hospitals. We also provide a lot of service and outreach to prisons, nursing homes, free clinics, health departments, the Indian Health Service, school-based clinics, community health centers, home visits, hospice, juvenile detention, migrant farm workers, refugees, TB, HIV, and hepatitis C patients. We work hard on tobacco, meth cessation, suicide prevention, and mental health issues. So again, I just want you to see the return on investment in what we get back to the state for training family doctors broadly in our state model. Home visit here by one of the family medicine residents to one of his families. In closing, the Family Medicine Residency of Idaho is a community asset. It's a health center, it's a teaching health center, it's a patient-centered medical home. Similarly, with the ISU Family Medicine Residency Program, they have recently linked with Health West, a large community health center in southeastern Idaho, to become not only a community health center, but a future teaching health center and a future patient-centered medical home. So again, I want to thank you. I mean that. From the bottom of our hearts for your support in the past. You believed in our programs. I want you to continue to believe. Our simple request is for a 7% increase, about $134,000, to keep what we do alive and well in the state of Idaho as we continue to grow the programs to serve the people of our state. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Woodhouse.
Thank you so much, Dr. Epperly. That's just fine, Dr. Woodhouse. Right where you are, if that works for you.
Yeah, that works for me. I'm Bill, Madam Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Bill Woodhouse. I'm a family doc, and I work as the Associate Director of the ISU Family Medicine Residency. Bring greetings from Jonathan Cree, my director. First of all, I want to thank the government of the state of Idaho for continuing to support family medicine residency education in the state, and be available after we're done here for questions with regards to our program in our area of the state. What I'd like to do is turn my time, rest of the time here, or a little bit of the rest of the time over to one of our residents, Dr. Brad Hyatt, who we're very proud of, who's from Idaho and is going to be practicing in Idaho, and let him tell you what it's like to be in the pipeline.
Very nice, thank you. And you came from Pocatello?
Yes.
With Dr. Woodhouse this morning. Dr. Hyatt, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So as Dr. Woodhouse mentioned, my name is Brad Hyatt. I am from Twin Falls, Idaho. I was born there, graduated from high school at Twin Falls in 2000, so just some perspective of how long it takes to get here. It's now 2013 before I will be practicing. I went to undergraduate at Idaho State University, went out of state as we all have to for medical school, and have returned back to do residency in Idaho. And what it has meant to me to be practicing in a residency in Idaho, to be getting my education here, is upon graduation, I only looked at Idaho for jobs. Many of my colleagues that are doing OB, surgery, or other residencies that don't have residencies in Idaho are looking at their state as well as Idaho. They look at where they do practice for OB to look at. If they do residency in Texas, they look at Texas and then Idaho. For me, coming back to Idaho and doing residency here, the only areas that I looked at was Idaho. I'll be returning back to Twin Falls to practice, and have also been able to be involved on the Idaho Medical Association board as a resident representative, where I'll be able to continue working with the IMA long-term, being an active in the policy making in that setting as well. It's been very reassuring and very nice to come back to Idaho, and the sooner we can get people back to Idaho, the longer they will stay here and the more connected they'll be to Idaho. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hyatt. We look forward to you hanging that shingle in the Magic Valley. Dr. Epperly, you'll have to turn that one on. There we go. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make sure with our couple remaining minutes, if there were questions for Dr. Woodhouse or Dr. Hyatt or myself, happy to answer them at this time.
This would be just great. Any questions concerning this program? Representative Ringo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Epperly, on the second item on your request, you're talking about reimbursement rates, and I am assuming we're looking at excuse me, a situation where some practices limit certain types of patients because of reimbursement rates, and you don't do that at all, I guess. So I'm just wondering how your delivery will specifically be affected if you don't get this appropriation.
Right. Madam Chairman, Representative
Dr.
Ringo. Excellent question. We absolutely do not limit any type of patient that we see, nor does the Pocatello program. As a community health center, we take all patients, all types. We put them all on a sliding fee schedule depending on their ability to pay. We believe very strongly that to help a community, we must be accessible to the people of the community. Without continued funding, it starts to become a problem of access and capacity. Right now we have 4 clinics in the Boise area. Without sufficient funding, we would have to look at either limiting hours or limiting and closing one of the clinics. So that's how it starts to play out in terms of practical perspective, in terms of what it means to people, is, we've got to keep a bottom line at least budget neutral. If we don't get the support, then we have to make the hard decisions about, well, then what goes?
Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Dr. Hyder. Did I hear that name correctly?
Hyatt.
Hyatt?
Hyatt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Hyatt, I'm just curious to know, I don't want to make an assumption that a doctor is a doctor. And so what I mean by that is when you look at locating somewhere and you're from the area and you want to come back, I think that's great. But if you were somebody else even considering a location and then you begin to look at, say, a job offer, whether you're going to be in a hospital situation or maybe a local clinic or something like that, how do you make the decision to choose where it is you like to serve? Are you considering other things such as, you just want to work 40 hours, you don't want to work 80 hours in a hospital or something like that? So I would just be curious to know maybe how you made that decision or how you think other medical students are looking at that profession today.
Dr. Hyatt.
Thank you. A lot of it is what perspective you want as far as how scope of practice you want, whether you want to be delivering babies, doing colonoscopies, procedures, if you want to be covering the ER. That plays a big role as far as where you look. Also, of course, money does look and play a big factor. And to be quite honest, one reason that Idaho isn't getting as many physicians coming here is the job offers I had here in Idaho were considerably less than they are in other states. The base salary, the incentives, the student loan repayment, everything was a lot lower in Idaho. Many of the people that don't have any connection to Idaho that's a reason not to come here, is because a base salary is just starts out lower and you don't get as much incentives. There's not a sign-on bonus. There's not student loan reimbursement. So unless people have a connection to Idaho, that incentive is lost in coming to Idaho. The big role that Idaho does have is you can do full scope family practice, which is delivering babies and covering ERs and admitting your own patients. So did that answer your question?
Go ahead. Did you have a follow-up?
Madam Chair, thank you. Dr. Hyatt, I guess the one thing that I was curious to know about is, are there other intangibles, if you will, other than the financial incentives to go out and make a bunch of money as a doctor that might interest you in locating in Idaho, such as, family values? Maybe you want to raise a family and you want to have a regular life and not be tied to a hospital or something like that?
Dr. Hyatt.
Yes, thank you. That does play a role. And in all honesty, I think Idaho, you have to be ready to work more than you do probably in a larger setting. And if you went to New York, you could get an easy job where you work 8 to 5 and 4 days a week. When you come to Idaho, you have to commit to covering the ER. You have to commit to covering your own patients when they get admitted to the hospital. You often get calls from neighbors and people you know in the community just because the community is so much smaller. So in essence, you end up committing yourself to more work by coming to a smaller area just because the availability of other physicians covering isn't there.
Julia? Any further questions? Senator Schmidt.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Brief question. This is for Dr. Epperly and Dr. Woodhouse. Dr. Baranaga showed us a graph that emphasized the graduates of the University of the Medical School over a 20, 30-year period did tend to choose family practice. However, we all know that has changed in the recent years, and there have been closings of family practice residencies around the country because of lack of interest in family practice, because of global issues beyond training and availability. And my question is, has this affected your residency programs? In other words, are you having less applicants, less quality applicants for your programs?
Dr. Woodhouse.
Yes, Madam Chairman, members of the committee, Senator Schmidt. First of all, my first response would be very few of the closures that are going on, to my knowledge, are because they cannot get applicants. Most of the closures that I'm aware of are mainly issues where states aren't coming forward to support their residencies adequately, and hospitals are backing away from their commitment to the support of residencies across the nation because of the economic bottom line. And so usually it is an issue where you have full residencies that are doing quite fine as far as getting residents, but are having to close for other issues as far as declining reimbursement and all the rest. And just in the past week, I have had an announcement from another program down in New Mexico, that is closing, and they were promoting one of their second-year residents to look for a second-year spot in our residency, which we're full, so we don't have. And then just a couple weeks ago, another announcement just like this. So if residencies close, I suppose it might be some of them are closing, and Ted would be closer to these statistics than I am. Some of them might be closing because of lack of resident interest, but as a rule, it's the economics of running a residency. This is not the most stable business model in the world.
Thank you.
Quick
Dr.
comment.
Epperly.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senator Schmidt. Dr. Woodhouse, absolutely correct. The major reason for closure is financial, not for lack of interest. However, having said that, at a time that's critical for workforce development in our country, 90% of kids coming out of medical schools are choosing subspecialties. At a time when we have 10,000 people turning age 65 each day in this country. So we do have an issue in terms of making sure the primary care pipeline is robust. The University of Washington, I just saw a recent poll, is the third best medical school rated not only in the United States but in the world. That is an incredible statement. Because of that, there is a commitment to this region and to the production of primary care physicians. We have an opportunity here to continue that. Just one last comment, and that is that both Dr. Woodhouse's and our applicant pools are up. We received 400 applicants for our 16 spots. Tonight we do our final ranking on those. They are tremendously high-quality young men and women. And we're really proud of that. I think what Idaho has been able to garner on a national stage is that if you want to come to a state, be trained broadly, and use your skills, come to Idaho. And we're proud of that. With that, Madam Chair, I recognize we probably used our time.
And thank you so much, and it was well used. We're going to line item number 3 now with Dr. Smith.
You bet. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Scott Smith to you all. Scott and I were in the same medical school class at the University of Washington from 1976 to 1980. So again, I just want you to see this from Dr. Baranaga, who went to the University of Washington, to myself, to Dr. Smith. The system does work.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We're probably more comfortable there at the podium and right up on your tie. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of JFAC, thank you for the time that you've given us today. I'm going to be pretty short and sweet, assuming I can work there we go. So our line item is also on 1-84, and it's line item 3. What we're asking for is $240,000, which is 1 outside rotation for each of our residents in our new 24-resident residency. I'm going to be fairly short and to the point. So here's the key points. Idaho, as you've heard all morning, needs more doctors. Residencies are important, but in Idaho they're a scarce and endangered species, and I'll give you some data about that. Rural rotations during residency double the number of people selecting primary care. That data is pretty strong. The VA has no mechanism to pay for rural rotations outside of the direct partners, St. Luke's and St. Al's. And our program has been hurt by the lack of state funding and the lack of rural rotations in the recent past. So you've heard most of this data that says that we have an old workforce and that we're an understaffed workforce. But let me point out something else. That is that Idaho ranks 49th in another thing, and that is residency slots per 100,000. We have 3 what are considered core programs. Those are family medicine, internal medicine, OB, and pediatrics. Our peer groups, Northwest states, small states, mountain states, all have more than 10 times that amount of residencies. So we have a lot of catching up to do. The average GME retention is higher than the average medical school retention. You've heard that our 2 state family medicine programs have a higher retention than the average, and I would expect that once we get 3 years of exposure to our wonderful state, the same will happen for us. We have had 1 graduate. He's practicing in the state, so currently our retention is 100%, but I wouldn't expect that to stay there. Here's the data about why rural training experiences are important. So you heard from Dr. Baranaga. Her program is really targeting the admission process and selecting people who are more likely to stay in rural areas and practice. But the one curricular element that actually improves those chances is a rural training experience. It doubles the odds that someone will go into primary care. Why are we vulnerable? Well, we've been around for a long time at the VA, but we were a track in the University of Washington. We just started our new residency program 2 years ago. And our match was the worst that we've ever had in 35 years as a training program last year. We eventually got great physicians to match with us, but at initial pass it was very poor. When we surveyed the people that chose not to come to our program, 72% of them responded to our survey, and one of the top 3 reasons was limitations on outside rotations. And so they looked at this and said, you know, if they're interested in primary care, they want to go elsewhere because we didn't have the right rotations. We have several community-based training rotations in our residency as well. You'll see that they overlap a lot with the 5 sites that are being looked at in the trust program. As Dr. Epperly said, we are schoolhouses, and we've been fortunate to be recognized within the VA who is moving to the medical home model VA-wide as one of the 5 centers of excellence for training in primary care education. And our cohort is quite a good cohort to be in with Seattle, New Haven, Yale, Cleveland Clinic, San Francisco, UCSF. We were selected because we specialize in training regionally and remotely. for the kind of places that are underserved. So, like I said, I'll be brief. Here is the request once again, $240,000. That represents one outside rotation to double the chances of primary care for each resident in our program. This is critical for our residency, and I believe it's also critical for our state in terms of supplying these internal medicine folks.
Thank you, Dr. Smith.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Dr. Smith? Well, thank you so much. Whoops, the mic.
Yep.
Thank you. Dr.
I'd like to
Jones.
introduce Geraldine Jones, who's going to come up and speak to you about the psychiatry residency. She's the training director in psychiatry.
Nice to have her with us. Dr. Jones, thank you so much. You'll play.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
This up,
Can you
bet.
hear that?
Yes.
Members of JFAC, thank you. I'm here this morning. I'm the director of the Idaho track of the University of Washington Psychiatry Residency. And I've brought one of our residents with me as well, Dr. Stoddart, who is a Utah resident that has is about to complete his psychiatry residency here in Idaho, and we hope to retain him here. And he will be available for questions in just a minute.
Thank you.
But I'm honored to be here and talk to you about our program. Honored to have psychiatry on the same stage as the other programs that you're hearing about this morning. I'm a psychiatrist. I've been in practice in Idaho for over 20 years. And I wanted to remind people that psychiatrists are physicians. We're physicians that specialize in treating mental illness. And that's a little harder to talk about. It's a little harder to think about. But it's a very important specialty, and it's a very needed specialty. Often we don't think about it until we see things in the headlines that are horrific and scare us into remembering that mental health is important and we need to recognize and treat mental illness. In Idaho, every county is a mental health shortage area, and that includes Ada County. You can define that different ways, but one way is to say we have less than one psychiatrist per 20,000 people in our state. And that just shows right there what a desperate need we have. The reason that we have such a need is that mental illness is really a hidden killer. As I said, we don't talk so much about it, but depression, for instance, is the #1 cause of disability in the United States. And sadly, I put this slide in last week in the Idaho Statesman. There was a headline about this. But in 2012, there were more of our veterans that died at their own hands than our military that died in combat in 2012. And that's just a sad, depressing figure, and it's something that we can do something about if we have people that are trained to recognize and treat mental illness. The state of Idaho has done something about it, along with our medical community. In 2007, we all joined together, recognizing the need in our state, and began this Idaho track of the University of Washington Psychiatry Residency. We started with 4 residents in our program, and this past year, we're now up to our full complement, which is 11 residents. And these are our young doctors here. They are practicing both in Seattle at this point and in Idaho. And in Idaho, they're practicing at the Boise VA, at the family medicine residency, where they're working in the patient-centered medical home. They're working to train those family physicians that will be going out then into rural Idaho, helping them learn how to recognize mental illness, treat mental illness, or refer that to the necessary people. We're also training them in telepsychiatry so that they can use that technology to reach out into even more rural areas and extend out into places where there really is no mental health care. So we're training our psychiatrists to be able to practice in underserved areas like Idaho. The state has funded our program at about 10% of our program. For the past several years, the funding has been about $111,400. And our program has run really lean. As we've grown, the main cost of our growth has been in our resident paychecks. And you can see there that from 2009 forward, that main jump in cost has been that we've had more residents and we need to pay them. And so now we're up again to 11 residents per year. The local hospitals have largely absorbed that cost. And so what I'm asking for this year is $10,000 more from the state so that we can bring that state figure up to around 10% of our total cost to a total of $121,400 annually. And I just want to finish with showing you our residents again because I'm really proud of them, very proud of these young doctors that we're bringing into our state. I'm proud of our state for doing something about this problem. I can tell you we're the envy of Montana, we're the envy of Wyoming and Alaska because we have a program like this. And I know that some of these young doctors are going to stay and be practicing long after I'm retired. And I appreciate that, and I know that we can really work together and help the folks in our state. And then with that, I wanted to further introduce Dr. Stoddard, and either of us are open for questions. Again, he's a young doctor that's not from Idaho, but from Utah, and will be setting up his shingle here when he graduates in June.
Tell me his name again, Stoddard?
Stoddard.
Stoddard.
Yes.
Welcome, Dr. Stoddard. Any questions for either one of these two doctors? Representative King.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In your caseload, what percentage is in pediatric or young people helping them out? And what percentage is in veterans, too?
Dr. Jones or Dr. Stoddard?
Certainly. So our program is a program in general psychiatry. It's a 4-year program. And the requirements are set out in terms of how many months of different rotations the residents need to do. And in general psychiatry, we really have the residents do basically 2 full months of child psychiatry. If psychiatrists want to go into full-time child psychiatry, they then do further specialty training in that. Now, the reality of what happens in Idaho is that there aren't enough child psychiatrists either, and so as general psychiatrists, we do end up seeing kids at times. We definitely see teenagers, and then adults all the way through the life cycle. And maybe Dr. Stoddard could answer that for his caseload.
Dr. Stoddard, that mic in front of you works if you'll just lean into it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative King, in my personal experience, my training with child psychiatry has been exclusive to when I was doing my training in Washington, which was the first 2 years of residency. Currently, the only interaction I have with pediatric patients is through the family medicine residency, where we work in conjunction and I provide consultation to the family medicine doctors who are delivering the care to the patient. And I provide some expert consultation, but no direct interaction with the patients.
I see no further questions. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for taking the time to come this morning. We appreciate what you do and hearing from you. Thank you. Dr. Rush, we'll finish up again now with you with the special programs and small business development.
Madam Chair and members of the committee, I want you to know that every program the board has is special. But we do have a few collection here that are so eclectic we didn't know what to call them, so we've grouped them under this special program title. This morning you're going to be hearing from the Small Business Development Center, and it has a new director, Katie Sewell, and you'll be hearing from her in just a second. You will not be hearing from 5 additional special programs which receive state support, and you'll find them on page 103 of your legislative budget book. They are as follows: the Forest Utilization Research, located within the College of Natural Resources at the University of Idaho. They provide research into forestry, forestry nursery, and related areas. Within this program, the Policy Analysis Group has a legislative mandate to provide objective data analysis pertinent to natural resources and land use issues, as suggested by an advisory committee of the Idaho's natural resource leaders. The second program is the Idaho Geological Survey, located once again at the University of Idaho, with satellite offices at Boise State and Idaho State. It's the lead agency for collecting and disseminating geological information and mineral data in the state. The third one is the Museum of Natural History, located on the campus of Idaho State University. I think you visited with the director of that entity last year. As the official state museum of natural history, it acquires, preserves, studies, interprets, and displays natural and cultural objects. And if you ever want a fascinating tour, they would love to host you anytime down there. Tech Help is a partnership of 3 Idaho universities providing technical and professional assistance, training, and information to Idaho manufacturers, processors, and inventors to help them strengthen their global competitiveness through product and process improvements. And then finally, the Scholarship and Grants Program is administered by the Office of the State Board, and I'm actually going to address this program on Friday during my regular presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Rush. Director Sewell. Good morning. Welcome to the committee.
Good morning. I have some slides.
Yes, as close to your throat as you can get it.
Floor is yours. I'll start. Thank you.
Perfect.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for the time this morning. As Dr. Rush said, my name is Katie Sewell, and I am the new State Director of the Idaho Small Business Development Center. So we're going to change directions here a little bit from what you've been hearing and talk about business health. I'm not here to request additional funding, just to educate you on what the Idaho Small Business Development Center does with the funding that we receive. Our current year funding is $247,500, which we use as partial match for $628,000 of federal funding from the Small Business Administration, and then we combine that with support from our host organizations, which are the universities in Idaho. You tell me. Yeah. Our mission is to enhance the success of small businesses in Idaho by providing high-quality consulting and affordable training, leveraging the resources of the colleges and universities. I'm sure most of you are aware of the statistics about small businesses, but I just wanted to highlight a few of those. 84% of the businesses have less than 20 employees, and 60 to 70% of the net new jobs come from these small businesses. So that is our target audience. That is where we work with these companies less than 20 employees. The Idaho Small Business Development Center started in 1986 with one office at Boise State University. It has grown to a network of 7 offices. Boise State hosts an office right in Boise and also in Nampa. And we have contractual relationships with North Idaho College for our office in Post Falls, Lewis Clark State College for our office in Lewiston, the College of Southern Idaho for our office in Twin Falls, Idaho State University for our offices both in Pocatello and Idaho Falls. And we have a relationship with the University of Idaho and their small business legal clinic. Each office has a minimum of a director, a half-time consultant, and an administrative assistant. We are the only business assistance program that is statewide. We are the boots on the ground, reaching out and helping businesses in urban and rural areas in all of Idaho's counties. We are the economic development and outreach arm of our colleges and universities. Our key service is one-on-one business consulting and coaching. Business owners and entrepreneurs sit down with our talented coaches to discuss their business issue or question. Together they try and discover the root cause of the problem and develop a plan to move forward. This service is provided at no cost to the business owner, and all information is kept strictly confidential. Through the engagement, business owners learn more about managing their business. Our goal is to spend enough time with the client that it has significant long-term impact on their business health. We average about 10 hours per client and see about 1,600 clients per year statewide. Training, seminars, and workshops are also an important component of our services, and we deliver about 300 trainings each year on a wide range of subjects. There are 3 specialty programs that I'd like to talk to you about. Our export program is a prime example of how we approach building new services. We started by identifying all the organizations that help businesses with exporting. Some of those are the Department of Commerce, the Department of Agriculture, the U.S. Commercial Service. And we determined the strength of each of those organizations and where there were gaps in that service. Our role is to use our statewide network to find businesses that are new to exporting and to help them build a solid business model and then bring in the other resources that there are. Another program we are currently developing is for companies with technology or innovation as a competitive advantage. The Technology and Entrepreneurial Center, or Tech Center, in Nampa opened in 2003. Early stage companies locate in the facility and have direct access to people and programs to accelerate their growth. We are expanding our work with these types of companies to a statewide program so that businesses in any corner of Idaho have access to the same kind of specialized service. And again, we're working with partners such as the Idaho Technology Council and the iGEM program. Lastly, you may not be surprised to hear that some businesses are hesitant to go to the Department of Environmental Quality for assistance. We have a staff expert that helps provide that assistance, and we can keep the information confidential. So we provide that barrier between the regulatory agency and providing assistance. This quote is from one of our clients, and it really captures what we do. He says, "I would recommend the Idaho SBDC to any business owner or leader seeking a competitive advantage for their company. Even successful professional athletes rely on good coaching and training to maintain their edge. Why should successful businesses be any different?" And this Barney Ott runs a website design and marketing firm in Dalton Gardens, and our consultants helped him think strategically and focus on specific markets, which helped him increase sales and hire 3 new employees. On this slide, you will see the regional directors that run our system of statewide offices. Hopefully you recognize and know some of these. I'm sorry that I don't have the time to tell you about each of them. They are all talented coaches, experienced business owners, and typically have an advanced degree. They bring this background to the table every day to help the businesses succeed. We also consider students an important component of our network. The students get real-world experience working directly with business owners, and the companies get additional help. Last year, we managed over 118 student projects. One of the student teams from Idaho State University was assigned to do a feasibility study for a client looking to open a hunting and fishing business in southeast Idaho. The students compiled demographic information, surveyed hunters at local gas stations on opening day of hunting season, and provided information to the client to estimate the market share they would need to create a certain level of income. The client is still deciding whether to open this business, but whatever his decision, it will be with the solid information provided by those students. Now I'd like to show you the results of this consulting work, because that's really important to us. Each year, the Idaho Small Business Development Center helps start an average of 72 companies. One of them in 2011 was Jedco in Jerome, Idaho. Donna and John Bratton had 40 years combined experience in the trucking industry, and they decided to go out on their own and start their own company. Donna took classes at the Small Business Development Center, and they received help in understanding their financials and putting together a detailed employee manual. They opened in August 2011 and have been able to add 5 new jobs. Each year, we contract with a third-party researcher to gauge the impact of our services. and benchmark against other programs around the country. Idaho is consistently one of the top programs in the nation. The numbers on the next two slides come from that study. An average of the last 5 years of data show that we help clients create and save about 1,000 jobs per year and help them raise about $19 million in capital. One of these clients is E-Trip Trader. Tom LaJoy, a former Air Force and airline pilot, created an online system for pilots and flight attendants to trade shifts. Tom moved into the tech center that I talked about earlier in Nampa, where he and his staff had access to mentoring, consulting, and coaching. His company grew at a rate of 50% per year and is now in its own commercial space. Our consultants also helped him receive an SBA guarantee loan to build an application for iPads and smartphones. He has hired 6 people in the past few years into good-paying jobs. I just talked about 50% growth for E-Trip Trader. Not all of our clients have that kind of growth. But overall, our clients outperform the average Idaho small business. Last year, while sales of the average Idaho small business grew at about 4%, our clients' sales grew at 11%. And if you average the last 5 years, the average Idaho business grew 3% and our clients grew 17%, 5 times faster. These numbers show the power of our clients continuing to learn, to build better business skills that stay with them forever. The incremental growth that I just talked about translates directly to Idaho's economy in the form of additional tax revenue. The 5-year average is estimated to be, next slide please, is estimated to be $2.2 million in state tax revenue and $1.8 million in federal tax revenue. When you compare the economic impact of our clients to the funding our organization receives, the return on investment is 4 to 1. For every dollar invested in our organization, our clients return $4 to the economy. Next, the Idaho Small Business Development Center, a collaboration of federal, state, and university resources, is growing businesses for Idaho. And before I close, I'd like to recognize Jim Hogue, who's the former state director. He isn't here today, but I think he might be listening. He led the organization for 16 years and is really responsible for the high-performing program that we have. And now I would be open to
Thank you,
any questions
Director.
that you have.
Appreciate that. We did work with him. And any questions? Thank you so much for being with us. And Mrs. Johnson, also, thank you. Watch the mic. With that, it's been a good morning, lots of information. Thank all of you for having been with us all morning. With that, we stand adjourned till 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Legislature Live, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee.